Sam Levitt is not the top transfer portal quarterback, and either is Brendan Sorsby. It's Darian Mensah, and I am here to tell you why.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We are brought to you by FanDuel, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets. And remember, this is the last call for football. Super Bowl 60 is upon us. We're going to be discussing the transfer portal quarterbacks that I have ranked 1 through 5. And a big part of that, I'm going to discuss at the end of the show, prior competition. How much does it hurt? Does it help with each of these quarterbacks, whether it's Leavitt, whether it's Sorsby, Mensah, or many others? How much does the prior competition, when you move up, matter? We're going to get into that a little later in the show. Injury concerns. Not only is there a Lisfrank injury for Sam Levitt to discuss, how about the quarterbacks running the football? It's one thing to take off when you're at the G6 level or playing against okay competition, wherever you may be. But when you go into bigger conferences, when you have more responsibility, how much will these coordinators and head coaches let somebody like a Sam Levitt run? How about Brendan Sorsby at Texas Tech? It's going to be interesting. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. Who's number one and why? I'm going to discuss that with my top transfer portal quarterbacks. I'm going to go 1 through 5. I'm not going to make you wait to the end. It is Darien Mensah. I'm going to break that down. And if you take nothing else from this show, I am a big proponent of productivity and availability. Darien Mensah played in 14 games this past year, threw for over 3,900 yards, played behind an offensive line that was pretty solid, but they couldn't run the ball that well, and he still found a way to power through what is, quite frankly, not necessarily the greatest group of players around it. He had a few, but what's that going to be with Miami? That's why I have him ranked number 1, and here we go. Darian Mensah is the model of consistency. 2025, he had 335 completions out of 503 attempts, 66.6%, 3,951 yards, 34 scores, 6 picks. Passes of 20 or more yards in the air, 32 of 86, 37.2%, 1,085 yards, 12.6, 13 TDs to only 2 interceptions. When he's kept clean in particular, it's really incredible how accurate this young man is. 271 of 358, 75.7%, 3269, 28 scores, only 5 picks. Under pressure, it's still really impressive as well. Not only was it 6 touchdowns to only 1 interception, he still hit 44.1%. That's pretty good. When he's not blitzed, though, you're probably going to pay a pretty big price. 12 TDs, only 4 interceptions, 67.4%, 2,399 yards. And when he is blitzed, the most incredible stat maybe of his entire 2025 season, how about this? 22 scores, only 2 interceptions. That's pretty impressive. 130 of 199, 65.3%, 1,552 yards, 7.8 yards per attempt. The one concern that I have with Mensah, he had 7 fumbles in 2024 with Tulane. This past season for Duke, he had 9. Okay, fair enough. That's one concern, but he's still a decent runner. 37 carries, 143 yards this past season, but at Tulane the year prior, 50 carries for 250 yards. So with that being stated, is this a player that's probably going to end up running the football a little bit more for Miami? It's possible. You could see that. Maybe in some big games. Miami plays at Notre Dame. They'll play Florida State. They'll play Clemson or somebody like that, SMU, maybe in the ACC title game, whatever it may be. I could see him doing it. But in my opinion, they're not going to let him run that much, or at least advise him not to, because they need him back there running the offense, making decisions, and of course, making clutch passes. Darian Mensah is not just an average quarterback. This is an elite passer of the football. They need him healthy. So in short yardage, possibly in a big game, is there going to be a few plays where they trick people? Maybe a 3rd and 7 where they run him on a draw? Sure. But I think most likely you're going to see his stats be somewhere between where it was at Duke in where it was at Tulane. But more importantly, it will be in bigger games and bigger moments. Making the opposition account for Mensah, especially in the red zone, can really change an offense. And with Cooper Barkade and several players that Miami already has, including a certain wide receiver, war number 10. What was that guy? Malachi. Yeah, they have plenty of talent at Miami. So they don't need Darian Mensah to take off all that much. But when he does, expect him to be very, very good. And to that end, I also expect him to be very, very consistent. And here are a few of the questions that I have about it. How does Mensah handle being the quarterback of a top 5 team? I don't think it'll be easy, but I think that he's just that guy that enjoys pressure. Again, playing at Duke, they were a good team last year. He was a captain. He did a lot of great things. But the players around you make the difference in close games. You have to be able to distribute the football because you have time. I know Miami's losing several good players like Francis Malinois, and they're going to lose the big guy on the left side. They're going to lose their center, et cetera. They're losing some really good players. Markel Bell tackle is probably one of the more underrated guys. He's headed to the draft, and good luck to him. But I have faith that Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, his offensive line coach and best friend, they'll figure it out, and he'll have plenty of opportunities there. So that's the only question I have. I do not question Mensah's leadership. I think he's going to be very good, and I also think he will be a clutch performer. Again, I mentioned earlier fumbling. Did they find a way to at least mitigate how much Mensah fumbled the ball? That's possible, but it's something that's probably going to haunt him at some point because 2 years in a row of it, he's probably not that great at ball security. He needs to get better. And again, I mentioned running the ball. I'm going to make a prediction. There's going to be a game somewhere in the season where it's unexpected and either it's an improv play where Mensah takes off and gets 7 yards to secure a first down and they can run out the clock, or maybe it's a 7-yard scamper for a touchdown. But he's going to have a key play running the ball. He's a better athlete than he's been given credit for. He didn't have a lot of opportunities with Duke, and he got sacked a little bit more there than he's probably at Miami. He's going to have better stats. For those that don't know, college football, your sack numbers go against your rushing total, which is stupid. Pro football gets it right. Those totals come off the passing. But anyway, I think Mensah is going to be a very, very good player. And I also think he's going to be a guy that is very consistent for Miami. And it's one of the reasons I have him a top 5 team preseason 2026. When we come back, I'm going to go back down through the rest of the list, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing your favorite team, and it's the Seahawks, or maybe it's the Patriots, maybe you want to think that, hey, Drake May's going to go off in this game. He's going to throw 3 touchdowns. Whatever it is, player prop, maybe it's halftime score, maybe it's the coin toss. There's an opportunity for you right here with FanDuel. And if you're a new customer, bet just $5. And if it wins, $200 in bonus bets will be coming your way. Make it count because this is the Super Bowl. And after that, the season is over. Last call for football and FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the Super Bowl and Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. If you want to take your game to the next level, you can also check out the Everydayer Club. Down in the description below, there is a link that'll give you more details. But the number one thing to note, $5 or $50 for the year, $5 for a month. You have no ads when you go and check out the audio links to the Portal Podcast, whether you're using Spotify, Apple, Podbean, Amazon, whatever it is that you use, no ads for $5 a month, or again, $50 one lump sum for the year. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the other quarterbacks. I think this is a really fun exercise. I just have some questions and I've got some stats that I'm going to read off as well. Brendan Sorsby is my next guy, and I think he's a great, great player. He's done a lot. He's improved. He went from Indiana to Cincinnati, and he took on some things. We'll get into the stats in a second, but number one question, will his legs change Texas Tech's offense? Their offensive line obviously got stymied against Oregon, and I'm being kind. I think having to account for the quarterback will be big. Vertical passing game. I'll get into some of his stats, but he's got a big arm. He has the ability to scamper around the edge a little bit more. I think the quarterback position will see a major upgrade. And I don't think Tech is going to just all of a sudden become the 1988 San Francisco 49ers, but they're going to throw it a little bit more and look for them to try to hit some plays down the field. Finally, is Tech a true title contender with Brendan Sorsby at the helm? That's a legitimate question. And to help me answer some of that, I have a few things that I want to break down in regards to him in terms of stats. Sorsby's not just any one guy. He's really good. And in particular, I'm going to bring up the statistics for him when it comes to the running of the football. I didn't realize it until I really got into the numbers a little bit. Here are some of the stats for Brendan Sorsby that will make a difference. 2025, in 12 games, 205 for 336, 61%, 2,783 yards. But here's the really important part of his passing attack. 26 scores, 5 picks, so 5.2 TDs to every interception. He takes care of the ball, and he gets it down the field. 23 of 62, 37.1% on passes of 20 or more yards in the air, 955 yards, 15.4 yards per throw, 8 TDs, just 3 picks. When he's kept clean, he's definitely very good. 67.9%, 23 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. You better get close to him. Under pressure, he's still not bad. 42.2%, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And when he is blitzed, he can make you really pay. 7.5 to 1 ratio. 15 TDs to 2 interceptions, 125 of 200, 62.5%. This tells me that he's able to read defenses. He's going to be a graduate student at Tech. It's not really a surprise. When he's blitzed, 80 of 136, 1,079 yards, 11 scores, 3 interceptions. So it doesn't really matter whether you blitz him or not. He's still pretty impactful. He's better when he's not, but it's not by a whole lot. And running the football, this is something I wanted to come back to. 596 yards this past year, 5.9 yards per tote, 9 TDs. He did have 4 fumbles, but part of that, again, sacks are counted against the rushing totals, but 4 fumbles really isn't terrible. As an offensive grade, 90.5, passing 86.9, 76.9 grade for running, and fumbles 70.1 on PFF. So needless to say, Brendan Sorsby is a very, very good quarterback. He's my number 2. I have Sam Levitt as somebody that is a little further down the list than everybody else, but my number 3 might surprise a few people, and that's okay. I'm all right with that. That's Byron Brown from USF heading to Auburn. I think that fit, culture, and just kind of knowing the offense, like he was the guy at USF the last few years. They got 5 receivers coming over. They got their top running back, Alex Golish, the head coach, some of his staff. They're all going to Auburn, so it's plug and play. So my first question, how will he run the ball? As I'll throw up some numbers of him here in a second. He had just over 1,000 yards this past year rushing, but he's now in the Southeastern Conference. I think those numbers will go down. He may or may not lead the team in rushing, but it's something to talk about. Brown versus SEC corners. How will that go? I think that's something to really look at because it's a really important thing. Tight windows. He's a pretty accurate quarterback, but there are going to be some moments he has to make some tough decisions. That will be very important to Auburn in 2026. And then finally, just a big one. Will Byron Brown be a clutch performer for the Auburn Tigers? I say yes. I saw him take apart Florida's defense in the most clutch moment late in the game inside the swamp. And while Florida's defense or offense wasn't very good, their defense was pretty good, and he made it happen when it mattered. I think this is a guy that's going to have a field day throwing the ball around to the guys that he knows with better players around him overall. They've got a few linemen and stuff coming over, but it's the system, another year of growing, and he's going to have plenty of talent. And they've even got guys like Sam Turner returning for Auburn. They got plenty of speed to challenge some of the receivers they got coming in from USF. It ought to be a pretty good offense over there. So now let's talk a little bit about what they've got going on in regards to the offensive numbers that they're going to be coming over from. Again, I don't think Brown is perfect by any means, but this is a really good player. And if you don't think so, the following numbers probably are going to kind of just put that misnomer to bed, because I don't see how you can't think that he is one of the best players in college football, basically, because he's really, really good. Here we go. Byron Brown, 2025, 12 games passing the football, 225 and 342, 65.8, 31-29, 9.1, 28 scores, 7 picks. So 4-1. Those are pretty good numbers. And he throws the deep ball well. 51.7% on passes at 20 or more yards in a year. That's huge. Only 10 touchdowns. Yeah, maybe could have had more with that percentage, but 10-1. When he throws it deep, good things happen. And then finally, when he's kept clean, another really great stat, 71.4%. When you blitz him, he's still pretty good. This was another number that tells me he understands scheme. 82 of 128, 64.1%, 14 TDs, 4 picks. And again, those totals running the ball, 1,107 yards, 14 TDs. He did have 7 fumbles, but that's still pretty good. PFF for him, he had offense 91.5, passing grade 85.7, running 86.2, fumbling a 57. So needless to say, again, Byron Brown is a very, very good quarterback. When we come back, I'm going to finish up the list. We're going to have Sam Levitt to talk about and why I have him where he is. That is next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Let's talk about Sam Levitt for an example. Arizona State was a good football team this past year, but he got banged up after Game 7. Really changed their season. It shows you the value of not only his arm and his running ability, but leadership and the skills that he had. Remember, the year before with Cam Scatterbo, Sam Levitt was a guy that led that offense, and he was happy to hand off when he could have still been throwing the ball to Jordan Tyson and many other players. That is leadership. That is moving forward, absolutely. So we put that same passion into every single model at Mazda. Highlights that make the real, what it took to get them makes all the things that count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. All right, now let's talk about Levitt and all the things that he does. He's a good player, but he's coming off Lisfrank injury. What is that? How is that going to impact LSU? When is he going to play? All those things. Let's get into it. Sam Levitt's Lisfrank injury, what is it? It's a foot injury. It could be tendon, can be bone. It could be both. He's got a couple of screws put in his foot from what I've heard. I don't know the full story on it, but he will miss spring ball. Does that impact the situation long-term? Maybe, but those are reps you're missing with the new receivers, with the new running backs, getting your timing down with play action passing, all those mental reps. I think it matters. So missing spring ball does matter to a certain degree, and that's a reason that I don't have him number 1 or number 2. If he'd have played this full season this past year, I don't think he's a transfer portal quarterback. I think he's a guy that turns pro. Just my opinion, but it didn't work out that way. My other questions are as follows. Continuity with LSU players. Again, missing spring ball. How much can he make up for that during the summer? We'll see. And finally, Levitt, is he ready for LSU's hype? I think he'll be okay there. I mean, he led Arizona State to the playoff a couple of years ago. That's a pretty good sign. I think he's a very, very good football player. I don't think that's going to be a massive deal, but is he going to be that guy that gets them over the hump? Like, they're expecting incredible things right out of the gate for Levitt and really just about anybody that they brought in at LSU under Lane Kiffin. That's debatable. I'm not sure that's going to be the case, but to that end, we'll find out sooner or later. Now, let's take a look at Levitt in terms of some of the stats. What do they have going over here for Mr. Levitt? All right. 2025, he only played 7 games, again, because of the Lisfrank injury. 144, 239, 60.3%, 1,628 yards, 6.8 per attempt, 10 scores, and 3 picks, 20 plus. He was a little bit low on this. I was surprised. 11 to 33, 33.3%. He still had Jordan Tyson, and he went up top and did well enough to come up with 3 TDs, 2 interceptions, but 13.1 yards per attempt. That's probably the most important. He still did pretty well there. When he's kept clean, 65%, 8 TDs, 2 picks. That's a good sign. Under pressure, he was 42%, pretty standard. 2 TDs, 1 pick. When he was blitzed, 61%, 643 yards, but a low number per attempt. I was surprised. 5.8, 6 TDs, though, no picks. That's always important. Knockwitz, I was surprised, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. When he runs, he's impactful. 7.1 yards per carry. That's pretty darn good. 5 touchdowns. He had 3 fumbles. Offensive grade for PFF, 76.4. Passing, 67.4. Rushing grade, 83.2. And fumbling, 65.6. So Levitt's my number 4. And of course, we got one more. That would be Drew Mestemaker. Let's talk about Drew right now. This is another very talented quarterback, and one that's a great story. For those that don't know, he played at Vandergrift High School in Austin, Texas, was a walk-on. You know why? He didn't start at Vandergrift. He goes to North Texas, walks on, earns a job, plays a little bit as a freshman, but still redshirts. And then this past year threw for over 4,000 yards. He's a dude. The question I have for him, is he going to make Oklahoma State a bowl team? I mean, they were awful this last year. They've got over 50 portal guys. That's going to be tough, but I think he can do it again. If you throw for 4,000 yards, you're pretty darn good. Number 2, how does Drew Mestemaker handle being a marked man? It's going to be like for Mestemaker when it comes to being a marked man. North Texas is one thing, but that's G6. Now he's going to the P4 level and playing for Oklahoma State. And again, revamped, totally new offensive line. It is the same head coach, Coach Morris coming over. That's very good. Same system. That's great. But is he going to be able to handle being a marked man? We'll find out. And finally, I think he's going to do pretty well. And if he can kind of take that next level, is it going to be all the way to the top, or is he just going to get him to a bowl? Because if he could get him to 8 or 9 wins, and the Big 12 is famous for this, teams that go from worst to first, could he be a Big 12 Player of the Year candidate? I think that's a very distinct possibility. But Mestemaker, again, just like everybody else, you got to prove it. You've absolutely got to prove it. So his numbers, again, they were absolutely incredible this past year. So let's take a look at some of the numbers that Mestemaker had and kind of go into why it's so amazing what he did, because I don't think people realize just how talented this young man is. He's been very, very good for quite a while. So here are the numbers for Mr. Mestemaker. 2025 in 14 games, 320, a 466, 60. 8.7%, 43.84 through the air, 9.4 yards per attempt, 34 scores, 9 picks, 20 plus yard passing attempts, 19 of 49. That's not too bad. It's 38.8%, 758 yards, 15.5 yards per attempt is fantastic. 8 scores, only 1 interception. That's really, really important. When he's kept clean, 74.1%, 29 TDs, only 4 picks, over 3,600 yards. Under pressure, 48 and 99, 48.5%, 759, 7.7 yards per attempt, 5 scores, 5 picks. And when he's blitzed, this is one of my favorite stats to look at. He did get some issues there. 117 and 171, 66.4%, 68.4%, 1,525 yards, but 5 picks. They got to him a little bit there. That's something to watch. He ran it a little bit and probably better than people think, 45 for 211, and he had 5 scores. That's pretty good. His grades for PFF are also pretty darn good. 88.3 for offense, passing 86.1, rushing 65.3, fumbling 69.6. So Drew Mestemaker, again, he's got technically 3 years of eligibility. I doubt he ever reaches year 4 or year 5. I think this next season will be it. He'll head to the NFL because he's an accurate guy and he's getting better. You usually see a big jump from year 1 as a starter to year 2. I doubt Mestemaker is going to be a whole lot different than that. We'll find out soon enough, but he's really good. So just to reiterate, this is an important list for me. I think transfer portal quarterbacks is the number 1 thing in the offseason. I got number 1, I got Darian Mensah. I got Sorsby, number 2. He's going to be playing for Texas Tech, hoping to get their, not just get their season into a high gear, but set them up for playoff success. Number 3, Byron Brown from USF-to-Auburn. Number 4, Sam Levitt from ASU to LSU. And then number 5, Drew Mestemaker, I have from North Texas, headed to Oklahoma State. Now, I just wanted to address something I talked about at the beginning of the show quickly here. Prior competition, I think, matters. But this is where the eye test comes into play. And I know this drives people nuts. Just how do you do when it's not looking so good or when it's do or die? When we use Byron Brown, again, they went into the swamp at USF and won. Not a great Gators team by any means. It's not. But at the same time, we're talking about a scenario where He went in and made the plays that were necessary, running it and throwing it at the end. And he just had a cool and calm demeanor to him. Guys like that, Leavitt's that way. Sorsby strikes me as that. These guys are just a little bit different. Pressure doesn't bother them as much when it's a gotta have it moment. Does the team that you root for, do they have a quarterback that you feel the same way, whether he's a transfer or not? Maybe the next guy up that's a recruit or junior college transfer. If you don't, probably not going to have a great 2026 season. Might have some success, but those clutch moments, those close games, 3-point game, 2 minutes to go, you're trying to run out the clock, it's 3rd and 7. Does your guy make the right decision? Play call, line protections? Does he take off and run for it? Does he throw it in a tight window? Those little things change the direction of not just a game, but an entire season. Thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. We're going to have a whole bunch more about the portal. I'm going through a bunch of different teams, doing different podcasts about not only individual players and rankings for positions, but also we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of teams with crossovers. After everything's kind of settled, we're about that point. Going to have a bunch of crossovers over the next couple of months as we head towards spring ball. So check out the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods. Please like and subscribe. This has been the Portal Podcast.